Happy Sunday, everyone. My name is Francesca Warren, and I'm the host of Do the Work, a series focused on bringing research from in education to educators. And
I
I'm here
cannot hear
today.
you right now.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me a little bit now? Okay, now I think you can hear me. I'm your host, Francesca Warren, and I'm bringing, and I'm, I can't talk. I'm your host, Francesca Warren, and we are here with Dr. Xintong Li. And he is talking about his research, positive teacher student relationships, and how they may lead to better teaching. I'm really excited to bring this to you guys because for so long, and this is kind of the basis on why we started this show, was this idea that there's a lot of good research happening in education. However, it because of the daily schedule of teachers and just trying to get through with the kids, we don't necessarily get it. And so just bringing it to the forefront. So as you guys listen, please go to comments and please tell us where you're from. But Dr. Lee, give us a little bit about your background.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I
We can
cannot
hear you.
hear
Yeah,
anymore.
we can. Yeah, we can you hear me now? I can hear you. Hold on one second. I and guys, we're having a little bit of technology. We were hearing fine in the pre-post, so while you're listening to us, put where you're from. I can hear you. Can you hear me? I don't think you can hear me. Hold on one second. I'm going to. Okay, now I think we can hear you. Can you hear me?
I don't know why I cannot hear
You
you.
can't hear? Okay, hold on one second. Okay, so guys, I removed him for just 1 second, and then I'm gonna add him back to the screen. Dr. Lee, can you hear me? Hello. I think it might be your headphones. Guys, while you're watching, let's see. It's okay. We're teachers. We go with the flow.
Let
It
me
may be your
see.
headphones. Let's see. So as we are getting ready for Dr. Lee and he's coming back, we are going to. I want you guys to tell us where you're from. Um, we are going to. Let's see if he can get back in. So in the chat, tell us where you're from, what area. Let's see. So he's going to come back in. And I'm really excited because today we're going to talk about those positive teacher student relationships and how it may lead to better teaching. Now, we discovered Dr. Lee's research at the end of last year as we were going through and we were trying to look at some research that would help teachers actually in the classroom. So, this is something that caught our eye because as teachers, we know that there is a link to positive student teacher relationships. We believe it, but what does the research say and how do we know it? So we have Dr. Lee back. Okay,
Now I can
Dr.
hear
Lee.
you.
Yay! See, a simple out and back. That's perfect.
You were just wait.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're going to start with, Dr. Lee, is can you go back and tell us a little bit about your background in research and all these great things?
Hello everyone. Again, my name is Xintong Li. You can call me Xavier instead. I'm very happy today to have the opportunity to speak with you. I'm a senior research analyst at the University of Missouri College of Education and Human Development. I got my PhD in educational statistics, measurement, and evaluation. My current research interest is non-experimental causal inference, applied measurement, and educator effectiveness. I'm really happy to answer your questions about the study or some other questions about teacher-student relation in general.
Perfect. Thank you for that. We have people from Texas here. I had somebody inbox me. They are from Oregon. And so, guys, as you guys come, please let us know that you're there and put where you're from, state, city, all of that. Um, when we first discovered your article, your research was really because we were looking for COVID, just what does the research say about teacher student relationships? So I have to ask you, before we get any further, define the teacher student relationship that you talk about in this study.
Yeah, that's a very good starting question. Teacher-student relation is a multi-dimensional concept. In this research, we basically define it as the teacher-student relation as the positive affect, which specifically the caring and mutual enjoyment, like whether the students are enjoying being with the teacher, whether the teacher cares about them, whether the teacher enjoys being with the students, whether the teacher is ready to listen to the students, so and so on. So that's the how we define the teacher-student relation here.
Thank you for that. Because sometimes, in American education, one of the things that I find is that the relationship, people define the relationship of a teacher or student by how much a kid likes them, right? And I'm like, I don't know if that's really a relationship other than a feeling. So it was important for me when I read that, when I was reading your research, I was like, this is a little bit different than what some teachers have thought about. As you, can you talk a little bit about what was it about this topic that drew you into, doing this research study to try to figure out?
Yeah, I have the major background in data analysis. So the relation is supposed to be reciprocal. It's just like when we were using regression or correlation, something like that. We know that it's symmetrical. For relation between the students and the teachers, it should be the same. But I noticed that there are a lot of studies on how students can benefit from a positive relation between students and teachers. Um, like good relation can help can help motivate the students to learn, to be more engaged, and be more confident and feel a stronger sense of belonging, and so on. But there are very few studies on how teachers can benefit from the relation, because in a relation we have two sides. So the teachers should not be neglected on that. The only research we found on this is the positive teacher-student relation can help teacher feel less stressed, feel happier and more satisfied in their jobs. But we don't see any other studies talking about how this relation can help the teachers to perform in their teaching. How a good teacher-student relation can motivate teachers to engage in more complex, more challenging teaching practices. So that's the reason why we want to do something to fill that gap. And we have the data, we have the motivation, and we as a team, we have 3 people on the team. So we were pretty excited to work on this, and it worked out pretty well. We found some interesting findings, and got published.
Perfect. One of the questions that I have, and I'm going to get to those findings, but I want to go a little bit into some of the things. Based on the research that you did for this, what were some of the key elements or characteristics of these positive teacher student relationships that contributed to positive outcomes for students and for teachers? Does that make sense? That's kind of long winded, but
Yeah. The major features or characteristics is caring and mutual enjoyment. Is the teacher you want students to feel cared. Um, like for example, the teachers care about their personal the students' experience, the students' cultural background. The teacher is willing to use their preferred names, um, and care about their interests, their hobbies, something along that line. That's one. And mutual enjoyment is um, more like the other side of the relation, like whether they feel happy being together. It includes whether the students are enjoying being with the teacher and whether the teacher is happy with the students. So it's a kind of dynamic there. It's just not only one-sided perception of this relation.
That's really interesting when you talk about the two sides of it. Like, do the kids enjoy it? But also, it's important that the teachers enjoy it. Was there anything about that enjoyment on the teacher's behalf that shocked you or this was surprising as you were doing this study?
Uh, Not very surprising because it's this part the gap is I feel like it's more like somehow ignored. Like when we talk about teacher-student relation, most people talk about how it can help the students have a better learning and a better test scores, but uh, supposedly teachers should benefit in a same or similar way, because very few people think about um, when teachers are happy being with the students, they may be more willing to use more complex, more challenging teaching practices um, in their everyday teaching. So that's we have that idea because there is a theory in motivational science called self-determination theory. I guess many teachers they are familiar with that theory, which basically means that there are three fundamental or innate motivation for everyone. Like people want to feel the autonomy, the competence, and relatedness. So when you can feel the relatedness, you feel like you have a good relation. It is something that's intrinsically motivate you in your um, activities. You want more of that, so you are enjoying the relation and the activities and the environment that you can have that experience. So that's not something I would say surprising. It's pretty intuitive, but not studied.
That's really interesting. When you talk about the self determination theory, and I think you said autonomy. What else did you say?
Competence,
Competence, and one more thing.
relatedness.
And relatedness. That has, and for many teachers, that has gone completely away. Um, in their day to day life, and not only dealing with students, but dealing with administration, dealing with parents, and just overall as people, right? So that to me is very interesting. I want to come back to that. I don't want to get stuck into that theory. I know that's not what we came here to talk about, but that is a far cry than what it's like right now to be a teacher. Um, you know, because it's got me thinking about the long term effects of when that is not there and then for when they are. So just in line with keep thinking about your research and how you guys got to this, was there was there anybody on the team that was like, oh, can we stop right here and really look at that self determination theory for teachers, or were you guys like, no, we need to keep getting to um, these positive student relationships?
Um, we use this theory to explain what we found. So basically, we first have the general idea, and we explore the data, did the analysis. Oh well, we found something interesting. So we are thinking about whether there is a theory that can explain this, and this is the theory that we're pretty familiar with. So it's not something that we want to go further because it's a pretty well studied um, a theory in motivation science. So, but it is very interesting that that can also explain many other factors, like what you mentioned, like the teacher burnout. When the teacher, they don't feel like they are competent because there are so many things that are challenging, so that hurts their teacher efficacy, so that you don't feel you're competent, so that will drain your motivation, so you don't want to do something that drains that energy. So that is another way to go. We may want to do some research on that in the future. But well, for one paper, for one study, we can only focus on one specific, narrow topic, so that yeah, it won't overwhelm everyone.
Yeah, and it is so interesting, when we think about that, you know, so as you guys were studying this and you're researching, um, what were some of the strategies or interventions that you found that teachers could use to foster these positive relationships so that they're reciprocal with their students, back and forth?
um, this is a pretty challenging topic because for programming evaluation, there is some like ethical challenges, whether you can put students into a group that aims to improve a relation versus a different group. So it's a kind of challenging, but based on the the evidence we have, um, we can have some general guidelines. So for any successful programs that can improve the teacher-student relation, you want a program that can, on the student side, to be more individualized. Like the students feel like they are not one of the 1,000. You want them to feel that they are uh, important. They are respected.
Yeah.
They are listened to. So this is one thing, and the other the other factor is similarity. There's something that you cannot change, like there are some racial match, whether students will feel closer to you if you are more similar to them.
Hmm.
You cannot change much of that, but you can try to have shared experience with them, so you can do some homework to know more about your students. So that's one thing that you can do to improve. And there are for the cultural awareness, some PD programs that can familiarize the teachers with different cultures. That is also helpful.
That's really, interesting when you talk about, students learn from, and we know this as educators, that students learn. I don't want to say better. I don't know what the qualifier is, but they're more comfortable with people who are like them, right? Um, did you find there was a difference by grade level? Like, did the research show that this is more effective in elementary, middle, high school? What came from that? Or did anything come from that?
There are studies talking, exploring the dynamics of teacher-student relation across grade levels. So, including our own, using our own data, we found that the teacher-student relation kind of declined steadily all the way to high school, so it levels out. So there is a general decreasing trend of teacher relation. There are various reasons and hypotheses. One is that when students are younger, they have more effective emotional needs and support. And when you go to high school, you have more cognitive challenges there. Like you have to deal with more challenges in your math and in other subjects. So the teachers would shift their role more toward being a mentor,
It's
like
breaking up
you know.
just a little bit. Can you repeat what you just said? I'm sorry.
What you just said, I'm sorry. Ah, so when when still when in high school, um, there will be more stress on the academic works. So teachers may focus more on the academic, the cognitive part of it instead of emotional support. So that may be one reason for that. And the effect of teacher-student relation student learning actually is stronger in high school because in general the teacher-student relation is decreasing across grade level. So if you can have a very good relation with your high school students, that means you will be better at engaging them, better at managing your class and motivate your students. So that will give you a lot of advantage in high school.
And that makes sense. Like if you've had these relationships matriculating up, by the time you get to high school, it makes you a better student. And to go from that. Was there anything that talked about the high school teachers, like how this affects them and their satisfaction with their jobs? Just knowing that not the least difference, but I don't know the was there any like anything that made you say, that may be further research about the job satisfaction of high school teachers?
I'm not an expert in job satisfaction research, so I cannot give you a more, how to say, complete answer. So, um,
Yeah, it's just something I thought about when you said that, and that's something that maybe our team will look through to try to find some more research that kind of gets to that. But that's interesting for me as you talk about like the different levels and which one um, has the most. I don't want to say most impact because I don't know if that's the right wording for it, but just what that looks like.
um, I am not sure. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about your particular question. Um,
Yeah, and I think you talked a little bit about this earlier when you talked about cultural competence, right? And you touched on it a little bit more about how kids um, are more comfortable learning with people who are like them. Um, can you expound a little bit on that role that cultural competence plays when building positive teacher student relationships, especially for diverse student populations?
yeah, that can be a big factor in community with students from different backgrounds. Because when you that's simply one thing when you are aware of different cultural backgrounds, you have that diversity awareness. The students would feel that you know them, so that make you closer. They feel like you care about them, and you have some shared knowledge and shared experience with them. For example, um, if you have a Chinese student in your class and it is the Chinese New Year and you celebrate, you know, and share the celebration, and talk about and share the knowledge with the class or something. So the students would feel that, oh, you have that shared knowledge and you care about their cultural background and something important to them. So that's the same general rule, is that you want the students to feel that you care about them and you have shared knowledge, shared experience.
I like that shared knowledge and shared experiences. And I think as educators, there are certain populations of educators who know this, they live and die by this, they know you have to have this shared understanding and this shared knowledge. But there are other people that say, no, I'm there to teach content, I don't need to know that. So that I'm really happy to hear that. Is there anything else in that space that you guys explored that made you think, whether for follow up research around the cultural competency and kind of how we get teachers there who are not comfortable or don't understand these concepts yet?
For now, we don't have something in our plan, but it may be interesting to explore whether um, having the cultural competency programs or PD programs can improve the teacher-student relation more in a diverse community than in a more homogeneous community. So that will give you some clue that, well, in a more diverse community, having a cultural diversity awareness PD program can help teachers to be more aware of of the differences and help them to have a better relation with their students. That it actually can help with the teaching and learning at the same time. So that will be a very interesting research topic in the future.
Absolutely. You know, are there, like we've talked about, and we touched on this a little bit. Um, what are some of the challenges or barriers teachers encounter or they may encounter when developing these relationships with their students, and how it better helps them? Like, what were some of the, did you see any barriers or did you see any challenges that, you might need to research further, but you said, like, this is definitely something that would get in the way of these positive teacher student relationships?
Yeah, I think the largest barrier is the lack of resources, because we that's the reason why we're pushing the awareness of teacher-student relation, like to we're trying to let everyone be aware that, well, this is something important. Maybe maybe some districts, maybe some states thinking, well, they want a better student learning, they want better, test scores. They don't care about teacher-student relation or something like that. The problem is teacher-student relation is a very powerful factor. It can improve many things in many ways. And now I'm glad that more and more people are aware of that fact and more willing to do something. But for now, it's like, for example, the first challenge, very realistic one, is class size. It'll be easier to have better relation, you to have more individualized conversation, like one-on-one check-ins when you have five compared to when you have 50. So the teachers, they're stressed out. They don't have enough time to work on, have individual check-ins and to do something to improve that, and the PDs. So that's one thing that is the biggest challenge, that I think class size, the time. They don't have enough time. They probably need to be allocated more time to work on either the PDs or to on the teacher-student relation. But for now, we typically don't have that, so that is very challenging for teachers. Um,
Yeah, and thank you for that, because this is something teachers are. I'm already seeing in our inbox. People are saying, "Yes, I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I have too many kids." You said 15. That's a small class for most of us. We're thinking 30 to 40 kids. It makes it difficult.
very
Very difficult. One of the goals of us with the talking about research is that policymakers hear this and they use this, right? So you're
Yeah.
looking at the research that you guys did, and how long did this research take you? First off, I meant to ask that.
I mean, starting from scratch to publication.
Yeah,
Maybe 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, we collected the data in 2019, so it is a pre-COVID data.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, you have to collect the data, analyze them, and finish the manuscript and submit to the journal. If you got lucky, you don't get rejected. So you have to
yeah.
wait for the review and revision and review, and maybe multiple rounds. So when you get something published, it will be um, 2 years
Mhm.
in general.
So one of the things that listening to this is immediately what comes to mind is one of the things that legislators could do immediately is putting a cap like a true cap on class sizes for teachers, and funding for more teachers, because what you're talking about cannot be done in a class of 40. And if it is done, you are having a teacher that by the end of the year they are done, right? So putting a cap based on, and it might be 25 kids in elementary, or 20 kids in elementary, 25 in middle school, and no more than 30 in high school. So what are some things that you guys found in the research that you think legislators, it's really on their hands to take up and try to figure out and change some laws in order to get some changes, some real changes for this?
Yeah, we are trying to communicate with policymakers. Yeah, it's the same thing. They don't. Um, there will take some time for them to realize, oh, there are some research on this, and it is important. And also there's um, some something there, like they need to have enough resources to allocate, even if they know it is important. We are pushing this to some conferences where policymakers attend, like AEFP. There are policymakers. Sometimes legislators will attend those, like a conference. So the researchers want to present their research in a way that the policymakers can understand. But it also takes time. But the good thing is, for now, as far as I know, there is some consensus among the researchers. So sometimes it will take time for researchers to reach a consensus. Now, we think that it is important. So we are working together to push it to the public, to the policymakers. So hopefully they can pick it up as soon as possible and do something. So that's the best we can hope.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that this gets into some of the hands of legislatures as we think about reimagining our education system. Especially, this research was collected pre-COVID. So after COVID, I'm especially interested in how this changes. Are the same roadblocks there? Are the same characteristics? And just what does that look like? What is the next piece of research that you guys will do based on? Will you continue this type of research? And what are some of the things that you hope to further research on?
For the current research, we focus on how teacher-student relation may affect their teaching practices, especially the complex, high-impact teaching practices. We may also want to see whether the teacher-student relation will also affect other teaching practices, um, especially in our study, we didn't have enough sample to explore the relation between affective engagement and teacher-student relation. Effective engagement is something that you engage your students um, with with content that is interesting and motivating to them. That is, like, you want the students to realize that it is interesting and important to know, instead of, oh, this is something I want to teach, I need to finish this year, this is something on the curriculum that I need to complete. So that's something that you want the students to learn. Uh, that is shown um, to help improve the teacher-student relation, but we don't have very solid proof on the current study because we didn't collect enough data. So in the future, we may want to go further and collect more data to testify that the preliminary proof.
Perfect. Now, is there anything in the research that we didn't talk about that you're like, I got to talk about this? This really was interesting for me. Was there anything that we missed? I've had a couple of questions, a couple of amens, a couple of taking this to more legislatures, people wanting to dig deeper into the self determination theory. So, what are some things in here that you didn't get to talk about that you want to educate us on, or just make sure that we're aware of?
Just one thing I want to share is that for teachers, our research can give some inspirations on how teachers can think about the teacher-student relation. um, you, the teachers can use this as a way to motivate themselves. It's a kind of a self reflection and a self management, if you will. Um, Instead, like I have to maintain a good student teacher relation because that's the way that the students can listen to me. The students can better behave in the class. It's on the other side. You can think about, well, if I have a good relation with the students, I will be happier. I will be more motivated to teach. So it is something not just for the students to learn, it is something for yourself too. Is if you will be happier if you have a good relation with the students. So that may give you more, you know, extra motivation when you wanna try to make steps to have a good relation with your students. So that's some message I wanna convey here.
Yeah, and that thank you for that because that really is something that while the responsibility, while we find these great research articles, and guys, if you're listening, and you have some researchers, you're like, guys, you need to read it. We want to have them on there. Please shoot it to us. But also, there's some responsibility on us once we read this and we know this about what next steps we do. How can people get a hold of you if they are like, listen, I need to. I put the link to the study in the chat, guys. You'll have to click on it, and then you'll have to go to. Oh gosh, I can't even remember the word. But you have to go to not download, but there's a oh god, what's the word? It's a C. I'm drawing a blank right now. But you can download it from there. How can people get a hold of you if they're like, I got to talk to him? This is something that's definitely has my interest.
Uh, Through my email address, if there's a way that I can share somewhere.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
put it in the comments. Just if you can just put your email
Oh,
address in the comments. Yeah, that's perfect because I have people inboxing me on social media like this is great research. Um, as we go into wrapping this up, for the people for the next generation of researchers, what do you hope will come from your research that's happened or and will happen? What do you hope will come from that from in the next 20, 30 years around this topic?
I think we hopefully will have more evidence, more solid evidence, giving us more ideas of how we can have effective and efficient and hopefully cheap programs or interventions that can help improve the practices uh, and to improve this teacher-student relation without stressing the teachers, without stressing our education system. That would be something that I want to see in the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Guys, this is we thank you, Dr. Lee, for coming on here talking about your research. We thank you for giving us the research for those who haven't read it. And guys, this is the intersection of what we do every day. And we know it's summer vacation for many of us, but what we do every day opposed to the research that's coming out, and how do we marry the two? And then how do we use this to help as we advocate for ourselves and what we know our students need and what we need as professionals. Dr. Lee, we appreciate you. He's put his email in the I'm going to put it right here for everybody to see in the chat for people. Please reach out to him if you have a question. Find some of his other research. Until the next time, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.